Get my glasses to see what I'm doing. I've normally it'd be quite cold in here. I've thrown the nightcat tent over the top of this Coleman. It's really warm. In fact, blast the heat keeps it warm for a long time. In fact, I won't be able to have that on too long because it just gets too hot in here. But obviously I can whip that down a bit. Not that it's gonna. I've got like 2 layers on it. Even now it's got too much. Yeah. Who needs a 4-season tent? Just chuck one tent over another. I'll tell you what, it's all work though, but the outside of it's frozen. I've got to say, it does the job. I think you could go right out in the snow with this, like this, possibly. Yeah, the outside of it, well, do I leave it for a bit, then I'll take a picture or a little video of the outside of the tent. It's not tied down or nothing. What I've done is undone my guy lines. So this Coleman tent I'm in now is pegged in, but the guy lines ain't out, and I've just thrown the nightcat tent over the top of it. I did it last night just to stop it freezing up, but I didn't realise it was so hot in here. That over the top. And I was in here the other night, and a quick blast of that heater was lasted about 2 seconds, man, and it was just freezing again. Yeah. Happy days. Very, very warm. I don't know what the condensation is going to be like because I've literally, we'll find out. I don't think there's going to be any because in theory I'm in 3 sort of layers. 10 o'clock already. Basically we got this tent and then another one over the top. Well, you got this and then the outer for this, and then over the top of that is the nightcat tent. But I've even had to open that. Yeah, it is very toasty. Not that I want to be burning any burners in here or anything, because literally I've closed up all the gaps in the air, like the air can't get out really, so I won't be burning any burners or anything like that. Otherwise you'll end up brown bread. Anyway, I'll show you the outside when I get out of here. Might even sit out here for a bit. It's actually quite comfortable in it. To be honest, I think it's warm. No. Is it warmer here than in my house? Well, obviously I'm in a tent with a heater. Till the 20th, and they fix my heating, but I'll still be tenting it. But I think I've found the idea to keep warm is to put another tent over this one. It's a nice snug fit as well. I sort of tucked it in at the edges. And I've also closed the... Well, it'd be pointless... Well, yeah, I could open the air vents in this on the outside, but... Boom. Bang. Boom. Somebody's touched down on the moon. I'm sure they have. Nobody's been to the moon. I could do a video about that, the fact that nobody's been to the moon. But I'm sure our American subscribers will disagree with me. But no, nobody's been to the moon. That was clearly fake, that moon landing. Because to be honest with you, the space race back then, the Russians was 20 years ahead of the Yanks. And also, it's just not real. And to be honest with you, you've got to go through something, right? You can Google it, called the Van Halen belt. It's what my dad taught me. My dad was an engineer on a submarine. You have to go through something to go out of the Earth's orbit. You go through something called the Van Halen belt. There's different layers, and one of them, it's all radiation and shit. You wouldn't be able to go through that. And to be honest with you, if somebody could go to the moon, don't you think they would have been back by now? Do you know what I mean? Pure bullshit. Pure bullshit, definitely. Crazy. Feel free to disagree, by the way. Feel free to disagree and put your argument forward if anyone's got one. Go and read the Van Halen belt and then come back and tell me I'm wrong. Yeah. Crazy, eh?
Welcome, frequency mode.
Anyway, I'm going to have another Red Thunder. I'll tell you what, I've been drinking these Red Thunders out of Aldi's. And you get 6, right? For about £2 or something. And I've got to tell you, it tastes exactly the same as a Red Bull. I don't know if anyone's tried these. But yeah, very nice. Anyway, let's have a burst of... I didn't think it was freezing out there. It's a burst of heat. I can only handle a little bit though. I've had a little clear up as well in here. Also put my sleeping bag through the washing machine. Got that, get that. That's inside dry. I might even try and have a little nap in here tonight. Be interesting about 2 in the morning when the temperature really dives. But to be honest with you, I'd feel it now if it was even that for that amount of time is too much. Too much for me. But I've got to say, this Coleman tent puts the other ones to shame. I really quite rate this tent, actually. My little army tents are just ridiculous. You can't swing a cat in them. And my second tent was the massive one from Halfords, which just completely blew to bits and blew everywhere in the storms. And then we got the night cat, which also blew down in the storms and snapped a pole. And we got this one, which is rock solid. Doesn't move an inch. It's hard to think. I'm amazed at how warm it is in here. It's only because without that top on, it's really cold. But I don't know how we're going to get along with. That's why I want to sit in here for a bit, breathe and whatnot. Because you do get condensation. But to be honest with you, you don't in a double sort of skin tent. You're only going to get condensation if you in a tent. It's just one. You know what I mean? There's no inner. Whereas this has all got an inner and an outer. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be any issues with this. In fact, the reason I got this one is because I looked at a girl on YouTube before I sort of invest in a tent or whatever. I have a little look on YouTube, see what the crack is. And there was this girl in America in one of these tents. And she was out in the snow, like real deep snow. And it had gone all up the side of her tent, but the tent was still upright and whatnot. And she said, let's see how good these tents are and see if there's any water in there. And she got in there and it's bone dry. And I've got to say, I've had the same experience here in the rain. But crazy. Lots of mad camping going to be done in the summer. I'm tempted to take me tent to Coventry with me, you know. Why pay for a hotel when I can just randomly camp wherever? I'd have to make sure I was right in the middle of nowhere though, which I can do. I'd have to be a bit more secure. Obviously camping around here, I'm fairly secure anyway. I used to be a chef, so I've got my choppers and all that. But obviously, say you was in London, wild camping or whatever, you might, well, who knows what might happen. But we've got plenty of instruments. And the policeman's seen all my knives on my camping video down the road there. That was mad. Anybody that watched that video is still up there. Wild camping and the policeman jumps out on me. I thought, nah. I said, I've got all my blades there, but I'm cooking. So I was like cooking some bacon at the time and he was all right, but all good. But it's not a criminal offence, you see. Well, they call it wild camping. I just call it camping, man. Do you know what I mean? That's what it was called when I was a kid. You know what I mean? As long as you're respectful, like where you are, like, you know what I mean? You've seen me on my camping videos when I was in the remember the woods where the owls were, and they chopped all the trees down? And they was all right with me. I mean, I've been found a couple of times. Once by the policeman, and once by the forestry guy. And I find as long as you're polite with them and that, they're all right. Obviously, if they come up and start getting leery, I'm going to get leery, do you know what I mean? But all they can do is ask you to go. They can't actually really do anything. It's not a criminal offence, it's a civil offence. And all it really is trespassing. Not that I've ever been caught for that or whatever. I think the Arabs still own all the land up there where I was camping. Obviously, if you're there chopping all the trees down and polluting the river and doing whatnot, you know what I mean? You probably deserve to get nicked and thrown in the river. But obviously, I don't do that. I just burn wood that's, to be honest, round here there's enough wood to just burn that falls off. Yeah. Anyone wanting to go wild camping out there, you should try it. I've seen a lot of people that go on their wild camping. I see one guy, In fact, I was telling him what the noises were. And he was on his first wild camp. He said, "Oh, I'm a bit scared of that," because it is quite. For me, it's just like natural because I'm from the countryside. But if you or you haven't done a lot of camping, it can be. Do you know what I mean? There's some weird old noises and stuff. Do you know what I mean? You got to deal with all that. Some people obviously can't deal with that, or need more courage to deal with it, so to speak. Yeah, I was watching his video, and he was shitting himself within about an hour of putting the tent up. And he could hear noises outside, but I did tell him on his video it was a tawny owl that he could. Obviously, I named the owls and the owl noises. I told him what it was. I said the only thing watching you, mate, is the owls, basically. Yeah, I see a lot of them take dogs out as well. I suppose that's a good way of keeping warm and keeping secure. But then, to be honest with you, say some madman did jump out, I wouldn't want to have to think about my dog. Do you know what I mean? I just want to think about who's in front of me and what they're doing. But yeah. We do get crazy murders out here, just in the middle of nowhere, in the countryside. But I think I'd hear them. I strategically, you know what I mean? I strategically place myself so I'm going to hear them or I'm going to see them coming where I am. Not that I've ever had to deal with that, but that's what these are for. Had me cooking. My favourite blade, that one. In fact, I had them all lined up, about 8 or 9 blades, when the policeman jumped out down the road. Crazy. It's really warm in here. Let's have another blast, man. I ain't got a big spotlight there. Checking for any condensation. Anybody wanting to go wild camping, you should go. It's a very cheap hobby to get into, camping. To be honest with you, you can buy one of them army tents that I started with for like 20 quid. Off you go. That's if you've got somewhere to camp. But then, to be honest with you, even in cities and that, they do camping. And there's all that stealth camping business that goes on. I don't know if anyone's seen them, the stealth campers. Not done a stealth camp yet. Well, all of my camps really are a bit stealthy, but then I'm in the middle of nowhere, do you know what I mean? But these people that plot up in the middle of roundabouts and outside Tesco's and all sorts of mad places. But I see a lot of them though, all they do is just park up and then get the booze out and do reviews on tins of beer, and by the end of the vid they're like pissed out their nut. And then have a good cook up as well, I've noticed. But yeah. How long them sort of campers would last in the real countryside, I don't know. It's not my real idea. It's not my idea of camping, being anywhere where I can hear lorries or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? I like to get right out in the greenery. Yeah, little camping video. Let's try it on just one of the heats. It's got 2 settings. It's got that setting, which just blows cold air. Then again, I've got all the silver business going on under here. The Liverpool fleece, look. I was going to say get your money on Liverpool, but I've been telling you that since the start of the season. Get your money on Liverpool to win the league and the Champions League. And I'd say we'd already won the Premiership. Only bet on football and boxing. That's still even too hot, even with... That's ridiculous, man. I was in here the other night, right, with that thing on the go, but without the other tent on the top of here, and it was just... Literally, you turn it off and it'd be time to turn it back on again. Yeah. Pretty warm. Red Thunder. It just goes to show all you pay for is the brand name Red Bull, because this tastes exactly the same. Yeah, it can get quite spooky out in the sort of countryside, until you establish what the noises you're hearing are. But I kind of know. You kind of get. You know what I mean? You'd know if it was a human stomping around near you, I think. But obviously there's got badgers running about, all sorts of things. They've got wild boars out here as well. Bit of bacon. Bit of wild bacon for you. Now you've got wild boars. What else we got? Minxes. Where I am by the river, there's otters and all sorts, man. And obviously you've got our four-legged friends. The fox. But they won't really come near you. And then you've got our feathery friends, which just amazed me. That time that I camped in that owl's wood with all the owls in, and I looked up that night, and there was a big owl, man. It was as big as a baby. It was as big as a 3-year-old baby sitting up in the tree. They sleep in the tree, just sit there. Crazy, eh? What is it? I forget what it is. Just there's some things that just storm at your tent. Badger, that could just run right through your tent. Not run, you know what I mean? It bang into it. I've never. Well, I know where the wild boars are. I don't think I've come across one. I think I've heard them and had them in the vicinity where I am. But yeah, they got big teeth, man. But to be honest, a lot of the animals and the wildlife out there are fine as long as you're not interfering with them. Like the owls, when I was there, I was obviously getting educated on the owls while I was doing it. But yeah, they're very territorial, so I felt quite lucky to be where I was down there. Because they'll swoop down and get you. Crazy, eh? As for big cats and things that you hear about, I've never seen any big cats or anything that I couldn't identify. Except that minx, when I took my dog, I used to have an Alsatian, a Belgian Shepherd dog, and I took her down the river, that river where I go, years ago, and I was walking across the field. My dog used to like diving in and swimming, And suddenly my dog ran up to something, and no lie, it stood up on 2 feet. It was a minx. I'll tell you what, they're big. But then my dog just growled at it and it ran off. Yeah, they're quite scary things. But I've only ever seen one of them. But where I was camping, that's right where they are. But I've only ever seen one. But I think a lot of them cats and that and all sorts of things like that are quite. What's the word I'm looking for? Quite stealthy. Um, but the first bird you're going to hear in the morning and the last bird you're going to hear singing at night is the robin. You wake up early in the morning, you hear birds singing. The first bird to start singing is the robin, which starts singing a year. That'd be mad if it did. It starts singing about an hour before the other birds start chirping, and the same thing at night. Don't ask me why. I don't know. But, yeah. But yeah. It's mad wild campers out there. I quite like watching the beginner videos of people, because then I sort of jump in and try and reassure them. Like that geezer that was hearing the noises, he was shitting himself, and it was just a tawny owl that he could hear screeching. The only thing that's going to be screeching at you like 2 in the morning it is the owl. So the only thing that's out that kind of night. Um, in fact, that our only nocturnal bird, I believe, it is the owl. There's nothing else that's out there flying about. Bats, but you wouldn't really class that a bird, would you? Um, yeah. Weird, eh? All the birds, you got your daytime birds, and then you just got your owls that come out at night. I think I'd prefer to be an owl, wouldn't you? Be a lot peacefuler, I'm sure. Suddenly the tent gets ripped open by a big grizzly beast. Nah, I'd have to be pretty quick with me chopper, man. One of them came for me. One of them wild boar. That's probably the well. Yeah, the wild boar is probably the most dangerous thing I'm going to come across. Um, but we can always have bacon in the morning, can't we? Do excuse my sense of humour. Yeah. So you've got two sorts of foxes. You've got an urban fox. Foxes in the city, eh? Crazy. I suppose that minx would be pretty dangerous if it freaked out and went for you. That could kill you. But then I suppose if a fox freaked out, it could rip your neck out. Do you know what I mean? Well, if you're down under, hello to all my Australian subscribers. You get the what was that case? Lindy, whatever her name was, whose baby got snatched by one of them dingoes, man. Went in a tent and stole the baby, and they actually done her. Thought she did it, but it weren't. It was the dingoes. Straight up. Have a look on YouTube. Have a look on here, man, for that. Is it Lindy something? That case? I suppose I was down under. Whole new ball game, isn't it? You got spiders and all sorts to contend with. Killer spiders and stuff. Killer snakes. Whereas snakes as well. I come across snakes while camping. But there's only two sorts of snakes that are in England or Britain, which is an adder, which can and will bite you if provoked, and then you got a grass snake which hasn't got any teeth anyway. Yeah, I don't know how I'd get on in other countries camping. Big old snakes that can just come up and crush you. Then boa constrictors and all that shit. I think I'd be wild camping with a gun. I expect a lot of them Aussies do, man. Down under. In fact, my pal lives out in Australia. Fella from this village, he married like an Aussie bird. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was her name Lindy? I think what happened is the baby got snatched. I don't know whether they found the baby's body or what, but I know the baby got snatched and actually they blamed her. And it weren't her, it was the dingoes. But I think they might hunt in packs, dingoes. Are they the same as a wolf that would hunt in a pack? Imagine getting attacked by a gang of wolves. Anyway, let me check me battery and plug me power bank in. And again, saying that, if you corner a fox, or you get near a fox's little uns, like any animal really, that'll have you. Very quiet. In fact, got this little Quanchang out tonight. Hang on there. Let's put the traffic control on. That is 725 Heathrow Airport approach. That's on AM. Better in the day. The Raddy's better than good for that. That will go back onto that one. Radio on. Don't need no copyright strikes, man. Not for that music, anyway.
To ensure that this extra cash is spent properly. Absolutely. One of the great hopes I have is that Maria Eagle is our procurement minister, and she's extremely capable. And I would say, if I give the Prime Minister, I'm not usually giving him advice, but if she could stay in post working with John Healy, there's a strong team there. But, it's not just two politicians that are going to solve our procurement issues. And we need to make sure that...
Yeah, Lindy, what's her name? Lindy something.
Value out of every pound.
I'll have to Google that later. Lindy.
We think the money's coming from the aid budget at this point, which was
A very famous case.
but it's an important one. And it is challenging to deliver what needs to be delivered, even if
I think it like snuck into the tent, took the baby away. Little girl, wasn't it?
So there's, we've had aircraft carriers with aircraft, we've had pilots.
Or was it a little boy? I can't remember, man.
We haven't had that for it. We've got the two carriers built, but there's a lot of gaps in our capability. And I've looked in detail.
So also had in Australia had that backpacker murderer, didn't they? Murdered loads of people. Ivan something, wasn't it?
There's really big challenges in the defence budget.
All them girls and campers they found chopped up. He was just going about murdering, chopping people up.
We find ourselves looking at this
out in the middle of nowhere.
Crisis, the strength of our armed forces at this moment.
That's why you've always got to be prepared, no matter where you're going. You know what I mean? I still am prepared. I know where things are. Yeah, imagine that.
I think now we realise that we do face a very realistic threat.
In fact, they had some horrendous serial killers in Australia, but that's where we sent all the criminals. So. New batteries today. These are great little things.
And what about the risk question, which I touched on there with David Liddington? Talk of
got magnets on as well.
Using the RAF to secure a deal that may be reached, and the fact that that could involve potentially some engagement with Russia. Many voters.
Engagement with Russia.
Very anxious about this. Won't they? Are you?
Well, I mean, as David Liddington said, of course there is a risk attached, but it is to deter further aggression. I mean, I think the fact that Putin has held back from, for instance, there was speculation about whether he might use battlefield nuclear weapons. He has not done so because he knows that that would trigger an escalation. And actually,
he knows that everyone else has got nukes. That's why.
Troops on the ground in Ukraine,
he ain't gonna nuke no one. He's been threatening to nuke England lots of times, man.
Security guarantees. Zelensky's been very clear that there have to be security guarantees. That means European commitment.
But then he knows that we know where his submarines are.
Those conversations are intense with Washington right now, but there's still no explicit confirmation that the Americans are willing to be that so-called backstop.
No, they're not, and it's interesting. I think Starmer believes that Trump is committed to making this deal.
Sad, eh? Lots of wars and death.
That makes sense. I think they want two things. They want a few things on the ground. They want, some air surveillance, some air cover, but most of all, they want Trump to stand behind them and say, "Look, if you go in there again, you're going to."
Because I wasn't really happy about.
And they think that Trump is willing to do that, but they don't know it. And
Britain supplying the Ukraine.
There's a certain amount of creative ambiguity.
Fair enough, give them stuff to defend themselves.
Keep Putin guessing without committing to doing too much.
But now we're actually giving them
doesn't actually
weapons that
Karen,
they can
could,
launch into Russia,
we and
which I
Europe
don't think we
bargain
should
on
be
this
doing.
if the US aren't as some sort of guarantee?
Yeah, I think it would be very difficult. It's possible, but it would be difficult. And as we were saying, I don't think there's enough kit to last for very long as well. But, let's not forget that overall, since the war started, the Europeans and the UK together have actually spent more than the Americans have. And I think Trump's figures, I don't know where he pulled that $300 billion out of his pocket. And of that money, the U.S. has committed $66 billion so far. They've obligated more, but they haven't spent it all.
And I think Putin's right when he says
Goes back to the United States. And I think
you're
Trump's
giving
right.
them weapons that are then bombing us.
US tremendous
He's within his right to say, well, we're going to bomb you. Because what it is, it's a war by proxy, which what that means is instead of having a war ourselves, we're giving the Ukraine weapons to have a war kind of on our behalf. That's a proxy war.
It's just like we don't know enough about what's motivating him and what he'll agree to do. And that's what, exactly as Jason's saying, that's what makes people very nervous.
Deep conversations tonight.
In the vaguest, broadest terms about what a military commitment by
So, right, weapons come, mate, I'll be in the woods. I didn't.
joint French-British intervention in Libya in 2011. A plan on paper can go completely awry in practice, can't it?
Right. But often
Do we have choice?
Often it's in the aftermath of when the invasion of Libya happened. Actually in the beginning it seemed quite successful. There was a transitional government that seemed to not want to stay too long, and then undercurrents were we just didn't know enough.
Anyway, that's enough political bollocks, man.
The war part of it was successful, and then the aftermath was a disaster.
Anyway, I'll be back in a little while, guys.
On